And that the most important thing I learned for filmmaking is like you're painting, it just looks like a mess. It's never going to be anything. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, it turns into this, it starts to turn into something. And I think of that a lot with filmmaking, that you have to have this kind of blind faith that you're just in a mess. It all looks like a mess and it never looks like it's ever going to come together. But then somehow it does.
Hello, and welcome back to The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America. Today's episode takes us behind the scenes of director Sofia Coppola's new comedic drama, On the Rocks. In the film, a young mother reconnects with her larger-than-life playboy father on an adventure through New York. In addition to On the Rocks, Ms. Coppola's directorial credits include the feature films The Beguiled, The Bling Ring, Somewhere, and Marie Antoinette. She is a two-time DGA Award nominee, having earned nods in the Variety Specials category for 2015's A Very Merry Christmas, and in the feature film category for 2003's Lost in Translation. Ms. Coppola spoke with director Alexander Payne about filming On the Rocks in front of a virtual audience. Listen on for their spoiler-filled conversation.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Alexander, and this is
Sofia, hello.
Hi. And we're going to talk about her wonderful movie, On the Rocks. So forgive me, I took the liberty of writing just a couple notes by way of introduction. There's so much I like about this movie. First, of course, the casting, this magnificent vehicle for Bill Murray and Rashida Jones. Each lights up the screen on his or her own, but their chemistry together is pretty unbeatable. The press notes for the film mention William Powell and Myrna Loy as possible influences, Nick and Nora Charles. I could throw in Woody Allen and Diane Keaton, as like a dynamic, seductive, hilarious duo in New York on a quest. But they make for such a good, relaxed team. And I liked looking at them so much, Sophia, that I hope you can think of another vehicle for them, for Laura and Felix. I would like to see them in another movie. Yeah. And all your casting is so good.
Because it was inspired by The Thin Man, we were always joking about the sequel would be make it a double. We kept thinking of a whole series, but
it would be great. That would be great.
But half joking. Thank you, though. I know it's so fun to watch them. For me,
they're just great. But all your casting is so good. From Jenny Slate, who's hilarious, and whoever was playing the cop, and of course Marlon Wayans, everybody. But it's Bill Murray, though, who is our national treasure, and the way you and your DP shoot him, and the dialogue you give him, and it's just looking at his face at this point in his life was like such a gift, and I don't know. And your story, your plot is so simple and revealing. Robert Altman used to say that he preferred very simple and clear plots so he could be free to make a painting. And the painting you've made is a beautiful portrait of New York City, a portrait of a young middle-aged wife and mother and professional woman's crisis with men and with herself. And is always a portrait of your own personal experience, elements, however direct or indirect, of where you currently find yourself in life. And all done with a very winning combination of gentleness and charm and humor. And what starts out as a woman in crisis film becomes a love story and ends with her kind of where she wants to be, which is in love with, at least in this aspect of her life, in love with the two principal men in her life, her husband and her dad. And one thing I like stylistically about this in all your films is your elegant and unfussy visual style. I remember, you and I did a DGA talk around Somewhere, and we were talking about coverage, and you were like, traditional coverage is like doing having to do an algebra problem in your brain. So it's like, how can you just short circuit it and do it in really beautiful, oneers as much as possible, but whatever your coverage is, just keep it simple. And you did that. And, production design wise, working with Ann Ross, whom you've always worked with, the picture looks great and it sounds great. And it's just all elegant. So where do you want to start?
I have a great team.
Yeah, you do. So where do you want to start? Talk about your influences, you're wanting to shoot in New York or to make a film which is, at least on the surface, more ostensibly autobiographical, professional woman in her 40s living in Lower Manhattan, balancing kids, career, family, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think the starting point was just the conversation between this character and this Felix character, who was a combination of things from my dad and friends of his and characters I've met. And so just kind of quotes I've heard. And I was just thinking a lot about this kind of cross-generational conversation between men of that era and women, and the idea of having a grown daughter. And I remember being in my early 20s and going out and having a martini with my dad and talking about, like, there's some guy that I liked. It was hot and cold. And he was like, let me tell you from a man's point of view. And so that always stayed in my mind of just how funny that conversation can be, and tender, between a father and a grown daughter, and looking at relationships and how you have your own family, you tend to look at the family you came from and try to understand that and where you're going. So that was sort of the starting point. And then I've been living in New York, so wanting to do something in New York, and because that's what I'm seeing around me, and having little kids and going to school, which is like a whole new universe that like as a foreigner you have to navigate. And so trying to put things for my life, but then I also wanted to make something that was hopefully fun and playful and lighter, because I just feel like I don't know, just in the mood, maybe because things have been darker the last few years just in the world, that wanting something that was a little bit of an escape, but still had some depth to it. Yeah. And thinking about the charm of those movies like The Thin Man and the classic comedies, like, could I do something that incorporated what I was thinking about, but also in a fun way? And I miss those kind of sophisticated comedies that we all love, of the great Woody Allen movies and Tootsie and this kind of New York sophisticated movies.
We don't have them. It's a big loss. I mean, and I don't keep up with everything on Netflix, and Apple, and all the streaming stuff. Maybe there's some good stuff there I'm missing, but yeah, you see Tootsie or Groundhog Day or Paper Moon, things we had in the 70s and 80s, and they're intelligent, Jim Brooks movies, intelligent comedies with depth, and it's a big gap for us right now.
Okay. Yes, I was missing those, and I love a lowbrow comedy, but that's a whole other thing. I wanted, to try to make when I started, I was like, I'm trying to make a romantic comedy, and then I was working on it. I was like, it's not romantic, it's not comedic, and just kind of finding my way, and also I'm not used to having a plot. Like, plots are not my strong point. So trying to have just a simple one that I could kind of have a little bit of a mystery I was trying to do. And whenever I was stuck, my brother Roman, who was very helpful to help me figure it out and talk about it. And I kind of based it around these conversations between Bill and Rashida, and wanting to film it.
And with the husband, was there any particular influence there?
No, I mean, I think those old classic comedies, a lot of them, like The Awful Truth or My Favorite Wife, a lot of them hinge on the idea of infidelity. So I was thinking about how it's really between the father and the daughter, but trying that he was up to something gave them an excuse for the dad to put doubt in her mind and get to spend time with her and go on this adventure. And I was really grateful when Fred Bruce, my producer and great casting legend, mentioned Marlon. And I was so glad that he mentioned him, and I met him, and he was so charming. And it's one of those characters that I wasn't as focused on when I was writing it. So it could have been like, the generic husband character, they have in movies that happen sometimes. And I was
we were talking, somehow we talked back then, and you were asking around for suggestions about who could play. I don't know if it came through our mutual friend Jim or something, but it took you a minute to find, I think, the right actor.
Yeah, that wasn't as clear to me. But then when I met Marlon, I was so glad, because he was he's so charming and lovable. And I thought, he could really you have to care about that character, even though he doesn't have the biggest part in it. If you don't care about their relationship, then the story doesn't work. And so Marlon just brought so much to it. And that's, that's a great thing, is that that character wasn't so fleshed out on the page, but I knew that he would bring a lot of life to it. And then we rehearsed a lot. I spent time with Rashida and Marlon and those kids. They spent time and did stuff as a family, so that when we were filming, they knew each other and the kids felt comfortable with them. And luckily, they're so good with kids.
And did you write it? I'm assuming the answer is yes, but did you write with Rashida and Bill in mind? I
did. At the beginning, I was resisting thinking of Bill, because I thought I was nervous about working with him again. And just because people have loved him in Lost in Translation, I didn't feel like I could top that. I'm not trying to, but I just didn't want to disappoint. And I don't know, I felt nervous, but then I got over it, and he's at a different stage, and I've never seen him as a dad. And he's just, like you said, such a national treasure that I wanted to get to work with him. And I remembered I did something short with the two of them. We did a Christmas special, and they had a scene together. And I always thought, I love them together. I'd love to do something with the two of them. And so it was really fun to work with the two of them. So you had Rashida in mind from the get-go. Yeah, I was thinking, it always helps me to picture actors when I'm writing it. And I just thought, her comedic timing, and also she's so smart and to show more of a sensitive side that we don't see as much with her, I thought would be interesting, but mostly because they have such a good rapport together, and it all relied on that. Please give us more. Give us another one, or I'll do it. I'll steal them. But also Bill Murray at this time in his life is so beautiful. I don't know exactly how old he is. I'm guessing around 70 or something, but he's just like beautiful. Yeah, and it was so fun to see him show up on set in his elegant suits and just, he has such a great face. Yeah. What was it like shooting in New York? Was it hard or easy? It was harder than I expected. It was fun, but it was hard, like just being on the street and being, getting shut down, all the limitations and moving around and losing locations and permits. And like, that was really, I thought it wasn't going to be, pretty simple. It's not an ambitious shoot, but it was really, it was complicated shooting in New York. I'm glad we got to really shoot in New York, because it is such a character in the movie, and that places like 21 and the Carlisle let us film there, and just, on the streets. I was glad. And luckily right before the world shut down. When did you shoot? So this is a DGA discussion. So we ask things like, when did you shoot and how many days did you have? We shot in the summer of 19, this summer, the one before. And I think it was around 30 days. I think my movies are always around 30 days or 28 to 30 days. I try to keep them as small and the budget as low as possible to have the most creative control. And it always feels like, we're trying to scrape by, even though, it's expensive to shoot in New York. And we shot a small section on a stage, because to shoot in New York, to get the tax incentive, you have to shoot, I think 20%. Should be more technical because it's the DGA. We shot around New York and a little bit. Mexico a little bit. Oh yeah. But that was like 3 days or something in Mexico, which, I wanted that to be such a contrast to the city. And I thought, it'd be fun. We'll shoot in this beautiful resort. It's called Las Ventanas. I recommend it if anyone is traveling anytime soon. But it seemed fun, like, we'll shoot in Mexico, but then you're there shooting at night, with like cables everywhere, and it's not really like being in a resort. But it was always an adventure, a fun adventure. Yeah. Talk about working with Ann Ross, your production designer. You guys go way back. I've had the privilege of working with her once on a commercial. Oh yeah, I love working with. What were your discussions about colors or visual patterns or anything that you were? Yeah, I'm trying to think where the starting point is. Usually, I put images together when I'm writing it, and then the first thing is looking through those. This one, because it's contemporary New York, we spent a lot of time before just talking about kind of the feeling and the look of it, and then she started putting images together, and it was sort of, we wanted it to be, a little aspirational and romantic idea of New York, but still rooted enough in reality that you could relate to it, but it could be a little nicer. Like her apartment's a little of a fantasy version of what her apartment would be. And everything's a little bit like a movie version, but hopefully realistic and naturalistic enough. Because I always want it to feel relatable or feel naturalistic. And then we just put together. But yeah, it's great. I love working with my team. Anne and I've been friends since I was like 20, and we were working on a super low budget movie together.
You guys go back to Napa together, do you not?
And she's from New York, so it was nice because she's such a New Yorker that she knew all these kind of details of the Sherry Netherland apartment, that they go to the art dealer, and she just gets it. But we have a shorthand, which is really nice, and I feel like that with a lot of my team. But we worked on a low budget movie that Lucas Reiner directed called The Spirit of 76 that Roman, my brother, produced in like 1990. And I did the costumes and she worked in the art department. And yeah, so we always talk. We spend a lot of time, I guess, like most people before shooting, where we look at references together and kind of start to feel our world and make boards that we can share with the costume and cinematographer. So we're all on the same page. And there was a lot of, like Laura, Rashida's character, her evolving. She's drab at the beginning, and then by the end, she's kind of, her characters come back to life. So the clothes have more color. And in Mexico, she's in that bright yellow dress from, Anne had a reference of, I think it was from Contempt, of Bardot in a yellow dress. And that stayed in my mind. So that shot of her kind of waking up in the morning in Mexico in her yellow dress comes from that. And so Anne always has great references, and it helps unite with costume. Stacy Patat did the costumes, and she's really great at doing contemporary in a way that that feels the characters. It shows the characters, but also it's something that you want a little better than real life. Like you want to look like that, and then working with Philippe Lesour, the cinematographer, who I love working with. We all, I guess like any movie, you sit down and work together so that all these themes are united. We're all on the same page.
This is because, you worked with Lance Accord before, you worked with Harry Savidis, and this is your second or third film with Philippe?
Second, I think. Yeah, Harris introduced me to Philippe, and I know all directors love their cinematographers, but I'm such a photography fan, so I love all the photographers I've gotten to work with, and it's, that's such an exciting part to have someone help you find the look of it.
Yeah. And shot on film?
Yeah, we shot on film, which is exciting, and we had a few. Yeah, I was thinking we were like on roofs getting those cityscapes, which I love, and it was challenging. We were talking a lot about how do we shoot New York and not have it look like a fake Woody Allen movie, and how do I do it in my own style, but still looking back at films from the past without, so being sentimental, but not being too retro or something.
So with that in mind, what sort of challenges did you give yourself, or what was the answer to sort of make it your New York in a way?
I think we just have found it as we went along, and but it was tricky. We didn't know exactly at the beginning, but then you start to be informed by the locations and the look of it. And I wanted it to have, there's something about Felix's world that was very, inviting, and this kind of warm lighting that you just want to be there, and the colors and everything has just a kind of inviting romantic tone. So I think we kept this in mind. There's a contrast of his uptown world with her downtown world, which is there's also construction and noise, and then you get when she gets whisked away in his car, then it's that kind of these low light of these restaurants and bars and in his world.
Cool. And
beauty lighting for Bill, and beauty lighting for both of them.
It worked well. And then in post, you and Sarah Flack, another longtime collaborator, any discoveries there, or what was that? Was it a long editing? What was that like? And the music too. Did you know from the get-go who was going to do the music?
Yeah, I always loved working with Sarah Flack, and we cut at a place called Harbor in downtown New York. Yeah, we've worked together since my second movie. I love working with her. It was harder to edit than I think either of us expected. I've never written so much dialogue before. We had these like pages of like 8 pages of dialogue of them at the restaurant, some of the restaurants, and it was really a lot to find the scenes in the edit between all of Bill's great options and performance, and then the scenes felt like they were too long, but I was like, I couldn't see how to edit them on the page. I said, let's just film them and then we can cut out what doesn't work. But so a lot of these scenes of just the two of them talking went on and on and on, and we had to cut them back. And so just finding that and finding the comedic timing between them was a lot more challenging than I've never done anything like that, because I don't usually sit in scenes and talk for that long. So Sarah really helped me through that. And it just, even like when it comes to pick her up in the red alpha, maybe because we're not traditional comedy people, I was like, is it funnier to see him first, or was it funny for us to see him first? And we went back and forth. Like, how do we make that as funny as we could? So there was just a lot of and shifting tones, because in Mexico there's a scene where he's talking about the loss of one of his girlfriends and how that moved him, and Bill was so heartfelt, and to me it's a touching moment. And then the next scene is them in like super silly spying and him hiding in bushes, and like how to make that tone shift. So that was all that kind of stuff in the edit. It helped have a great editor, but it's hard to kind of find that way to have enough pause that you can shift tone and all that kind of stuff.
No, it works.
I'm
great.
so glad.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. It's always hard to tell, but I'm glad. And and for the music, I was listening to Chet Baker when I was writing and thinking of Feel Like the World, and I wasn't sure what the rest of it should be, but luckily my husband Tomas and his band Phoenix wrote some music for us and helped me find pieces, and so they helped a lot. So that was nice to have them. They wrote a new song for the ending, which when we got that in the edit room, it was like, oh, it just lifts the mood up, which we needed right there.
You mean for the end credits?
At the very end, the last, because I wanted it to be uplifting at the end and have a positive feeling. So, but I try to cut without music as much as we can, because it always makes the scene better. And Richard Beggs and I are my great sound designer, Richard Beggs, who I've known since forever. He and I always talk about how you got to make it how much that helps. So to try to make it work without music, and then it's just like icing on the cake. And
cool.
Really luckily we finished our sound mix in March, right before everything shut down. So I felt lucky that we were able to finish. I really feel for all the productions of people who were having to try to figure out. I can't imagine being halfway through your shoot and having to go back and try to figure it out. So, which luckily people did. But
yeah, I'm so jealous of our filmmaking colleagues who squeezed one in right before the plague.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I feel like
And are you writing now? I think you're going to do, you've got a TV series cut or limited series, whatever you call it, Custom of the Country.
All the mini-series. I still think
whatever the right term is.
No. I guess it's limited. I'm adapting this Edith Wharton book that I love, The Custom of the Country, which was originally written in 5 parts it was serialized in a magazine. So I thought, it really lends itself to be done in 5 parts. So I've never done anything that long and in different sections. So it's been great to have a writing project during while being stuck at home to get to engage my brain in another era. It's all set in kind of early 1900s New York and Europe. So it's been really fun to think about that and
cool.
Enjoy her writing. And I think I love when you're adapting something, because you get to just be so into a book that you like and spend time with it that way.
Have you done an adaptation before of a book? I'm trying to think.
Virgin Suicides was from
of course. Yeah.
But I always find an original story so much harder, because you have to kind of find your way, and where adaptation is a fun, as you know, fun. It's like a game puzzle to figure out, but you have something. You don't have as much self-doubt and self-hatred, I think, as what
Jim uses the term scaffolding. At least you've got a little, you don't have the building, but you've got a little scaffolding.
Yes. About Schmidt was from a book, wasn't it?
I got to say 85% was original.
Oh,
and
wow.
then, which was the first thing I wrote when I got out of film school. And then we were adapting that book, and some narrative threads of the book allowed us to solve some problems I had not solved in the original.
Oh, wow.
It was kind of a hybrid, very much a hybrid of an adaptation and an original.
Oh, wow. I didn't. So you started that and then found the book later and then put it together.
Yeah. But we've done a bunch of adaptations, Election and Sideways, and
which is the best.
Hey, Matt, who's our DGA facilitator, said that maybe there were some questions from our viewers, which were emailed to him. Matt, are you around? And are there any questions you think you'd want to via address?
I'm here. I think we may have covered a few of them, but
okay. Well, go ahead and read some that haven't been covered.
Absolutely. Let me just pull it up real quick.
Have you been watching lots of movies, catching up on old movies?
Old ones. Yeah. I'm very much behind on new movies, but I'm a Turner Classics and Criterion guy.
Yes, I know.
You seen anything? While Matt's looking, is there anything you'd want to recommend? Anything good you've seen lately?
Just for fun, I just started watching the Fran Lebowitz, Marty Scorsese. Oh yeah, that's really fun. Mm-hmm. Another way to be in New York when we can't travel. But we this summer my dad programmed we had a whole family film festival, so we watched a lot of great old films, and I think one of my favorites was Seven Samurai. I don't think I'd seen that maybe since I was a kid or something, and it really that really impressed me. So beautiful.
That's a movie. That's a real.
I think is my favorite actor now.
Mifune?
Yes.
Let me recommend Redbeard.
Oh yeah, I've never seen Redbeard.
That's a really beautiful movie and a really great Mifune performance. I mean, he was always good, but I really like him in Redbeard.
Okay, I need to see that.
Okay, I have one. I think you kind of touched on it a little bit. So Sophia, what was it like to work with Bill Murray again after a very successful film 17 years ago? Did you guys pick up where you left off?
Oh, nice. Well, it was great working with him, especially now. Well, he was always helpful, even from when in Lost in Translation, he was really helpful and just getting, kind of keeping the momentum going. And, but this especially because now I know him from after all these years, and so he trusts me in a way that more than when I just first met him, although he was always open to listening to what I was trying to do. But yeah, it was especially fun because we have just this trust, and he was there to help me try to make what I had in mind, and enjoyed working with Rashida. So it's always a pleasure. He just always brings surprises. That's what I love working with him, is you never know what he's going to add, and something that you would never think of, because he's such a unique person. And there's a scene where they're at the kind of art collector's cocktail party, and Bill came up with the idea that they sneak out walking backwards, and it just makes always just makes things more fun and brings magic. And then he can be really deep and heartfelt and bring that as well. So
that moment when he's telling his daughter about the lover he had after his wife who died. Did you know she died?
Yeah.
Was very beautifully done. I watched that scene a couple of times, and he almost cries for a moment. And it's just so very good.
Thank you. Yeah, well, thank you. When we were shooting that, I was really kind of stunned to see Bill show that side, because you don't see it very often. He's always so kind of still fun and playful, and then to see him go so deep about that. And I don't know, it was moving when we were filming it. Do you feel like when you're filming, when there's a moment that has emotionally charged or something?
Yes.
Or do you find it? Yeah, you feel it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you just pray. You pray that the camera got what you just felt. Yeah.
Yeah. I felt like he was really talking about someone real in his life, and so you're always grateful for these moments, because I wanted it to be, silly and comedic and fun, but then hopefully have those kind of moments too.
Yeah, the poignancy makes it.
And I was thinking about when you're, sorry?
I was just saying it's great. No, but you need moments of poignancy, and your movie has it.
Yeah. Thank God. Well, you hope for that. Yeah. But and I was thinking about moments. So there's been a few times, not often, when my parents have like said something about themselves, not as parents, as people, and it always struck me as like, oh yeah, they have a persona outside of just being your parents.
Yeah.
So I was hoping to capture a little bit of that, just all the dynamics of.
Hey, speaking of lovers in the movie, it was fun to see Kelly Lynch again. Maybe she's been acting a lot, but I personally hadn't seen her in a while. It was really groovy to see her.
Yeah, she's so great. I love that she did that scene. And she's friends with Bill, so they have a rapport. Yeah, that's nice. It was fun to have her cameo.
And I saw Mitch Glazer was on as a producer too.
Yeah. So Mitch and Kelly were there a little, they were cheering us on. It's always important to have cheerleaders. And he helped so much with early stages of getting it together, and always hearing ideas early on, which is helpful to have those. I think it's so important to have those people that you trust to show things when they're not finished and get opinions and feedback. I'm sure
we can't survive without them.
Yeah.
Matt, any other scintillating questions?
Yeah, we just got another one that just came through. Can you talk more about the concept of mystery and how you kept that going in the rigorous work of shooting a film day by day?
How would you interpret that? Do you think they mean like the plot mystery, or the mystery of like the...
No, I think... I don't know if there's a real answer to that, other than that mystery is one of the great elements of film. Just things which are, not really explained, or kind of poetic, or,
The whole thing is a mystery to me of how something turns into a film. I guess that might not, I'm sorry if I'm not answering the question, but there is a moment in the edit where you're just months and months of editing, and then it's like, is this ever going to feel like a movie? And then just mysteriously one day it starts to turn into a movie, and you can't kind of see it coming. Then all of a sudden it sort of comes into focus. And I remember I went to art school, and I wanted to be a painter, and the most important thing I learned for filmmaking is like, you're painting, it just looks like a mess. It's never going to be anything. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, it starts to turn into something. And I think of that a lot with filmmaking, that you have to have this kind of blind faith that you're just in a mess. It all looks like a mess, and it never looks like it's ever going to come together, but then somehow it does. So I think that helps having experience, because in the past, I think it's harder when you're starting to know that.
To know that there's an end.
Yeah, and to know that even though it looks like a mess, or looks like it's not working, that it magically comes together when you have music and sound design. Yeah. Sound design is such a huge part of it for me. That really, then it really comes to life in a way that, and you look at rough cuts and you look at them without the sound, and they're never very good. And you have to show people and get feedback. And then once you get your sound design, you're like, oh my God, it's like, it's not terrible. Like, it really is such a huge part of it. So it's hard to gauge when you're looking at rough cuts, I think, because the sound hasn't been done. That's such a big part.
Matt, should we do one more and then start to wrap it up?
Yeah, let's do one more. Is there a moment from the shoot, being in New York, that means more to you now because of the pandemic?
Oh, that's an question.
That's a good question. Yeah, the whole thing means more to me. Like, I can't believe that we got to be running around New York together with people, and it really means so much to me that we got to shoot in New York. So it's hard to think of one exact moment, but I just have really good memories of being, especially in Soho, with Marlon and Rashida on the street, and Bill, and and just like kind of the thing with people walk by and be like, Marlon, Bill, like just the camaraderie of spirit in New York, how people treat each other like they all know each other. There's something nice about that. And the scene where Bill and where Rashida and Marlon are having like their makeup scene after she comes back from Mexico, and they talk about their feelings. That was probably the hardest scene for me to shoot, because it was like, I know more about how to do things where the feelings are under the surface, but like, how do you have that without being corny and feel real? But people aren't able to express themselves. And that was hard. And we were shooting on the sidewalk on like Wooster Street, and we were about to get shut down. They're like, okay, you have 5 minutes to shoot the scene, and we're out there. I was trying to do it all in one, and I thought, no, we really need another. I told Philippe, the DP, we really need another shot, because I might need to cut 2 takes together for that to be emotional, because there were different tones, and we were getting shut down, and the actors just rallied. Rashida and Marlon just were so focused, and under all this pressure, they could really connect and be emotional. I was so appreciative. But one of those ones, you're all holding your breath, and we're about to get the plug pulled, and maybe some of that energy kind of gets into what you're doing, because you're all feeling that. But
you're under pressure. I always try to tell the actors, we're losing light or we're under pressure, but just remember, between action and cut, time stops.
Yeah, it really does. I think once you're in that zone, you forget everything else, and that's sort of the fun of it, is that you go into that zone. But yeah, I was so glad that we got to shoot in New York, and it's a good memory of all being there.
Fantastic. Well, Sofia, thanks, and thanks for asking me to do this. It's great to have some time with you, and I guess let's thank all of our viewers and listeners.
Oh, it's nice to see you.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Everyone.
I hope everyone's safe and fine and watching good movies at home.
Yeah. All right. Bye now.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. If you'd like to hear more, The Director's Cut is available wherever you listen to podcasts. Stay tuned in the coming weeks as we bring you discussions of films from Jason Walliner, Spike Lee, and Regina King. And be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow film buffs find the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America. Music is by Dan Wally.